Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining the Montgomery County Taxpayers League meeting with Dr. Thomas Taylor, Superintendent of MCPS. My name is Esther Wells, and I am the president of MCTL. And joining us is Gordon Brenny, our treasurer, Fitz Mofor, our secretary, and our board members are Ann Hingston, Joan Fiddler, and Lee Henry. Please reach out and connect with us through our website at www.mctaxpayersleague.org or on social media, Facebook, MCTL, on X at MoCo Taxpayers, or you can email me directly at presidentmctl@gmail.com. The objective of the Montgomery County Taxpayers League is to educate and advocate for county taxpayers. We support appropriate actions to achieve greater efficiency and effectiveness in Montgomery County government and tax equity for Montgomery County taxpayers. Our vision is focused on performance and outcome. We host presentations with local elected and appointed officials on topics which have an impact on county's finances and consequently our taxes. We also take part in various public meetings and other advocacy. Please mark your calendar for upcoming events. On Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m., MCTL will be meeting with Councilwoman Marilyn Balcom, member of the Economic Development Committee and Transportation and Environment Committee. Also, MCTL has open leadership positions and volunteer opportunities, so please get engaged. Please reach out to us if you are aware of community events and engagement opportunities for MCTL to attend and advocate for members and taxpayers. Our annual membership is only for $25, and so please join or continue to be a guest at our events so we can be engaged and solicit questions and answers from our elected and appointed officials. So without further ado, I want to give you a quick introduction about Dr. Thomas Taylor. So Dr. Thomas Taylor is superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools, where he oversees 211 schools with more than 160,000 students and 25,000 staff. We are the 15th largest school system in the nation. He began his tenure on July 1st, 2024. Dr. Taylor has more than 25 years of experience as an educator, with more than 12 years in district level leadership and 6 years as a superintendent. Prior to MCPS, he served as superintendent in Stafford County Public Schools in Virginia, where he was named Virginia Region 3 Superintendent of the Year in 2024. Very cool. Honoring the student-focused work he led. During his tenure in Stafford County, Dr. Taylor implemented various noteworthy initiatives, including the development of specialty centers focused on in-demand career opportunities and expanded work-based learning career credentialing. Dr. Taylor led the work to offer a comprehensive approach to student learning, effective teacher methods, top-notch curriculum, active engagement, fair assessment, high standards, and tailored support for all students. He also secured a partnership with the JED Foundation to address student mental health. Dr. Taylor led the development of the Stafford County School System Strategic Plan, provided draft legislation for consideration in Richmond, and standardized school practices that define expectations for students' achievement and efficiency. Dr. Taylor serves on numerous community boards, including the College Board's Superintendent Advisory Council. Dr. Taylor holds a Bachelor's of Arts from Virginia Wesleyan University, a Master's in Educational Leadership, and a Doctorate in Education Policy from the University of Virginia, and a Master's of Business Administration degree from William and Mary's Raymond A. Mason School of Business. He and his wife, Sue, are the proud parents of 5 children. Welcome, Superintendent Taylor. Thank you for joining us this evening to discuss all things MCPS and answering questions submitted from the community. We hope this meeting is the first of many conversations and engagements. Over to you, Dr. Taylor, to do your introduction and provide us a quick overview of MCPS vision and mission.
Oh, thank you so much, Esther. And it really is a privilege to join you this evening. I've been really looking forward to this conversation and an opportunity to chat. I would say that I appreciate the bio, but my most impressive credential is that I'm a parent and that I've got 5 fantastic kids. And my second most impressive credential is that I am a graduate of MCPS and that I benefited from a great education in Montgomery County Public Schools. And it really is a delight to be back in the community And my mother is certainly thrilled. I don't know about my brother and some of my cousins, but my mother is definitely thrilled. I'm thrilled to share a little bit about what I've observed in the 5 months that I've been on the job, and definitely share some direction. But before I do recognize a handful of folks that are on to tonight's call, and it's nice to have some familiar faces on the call, and look forward to hearing from you. Two in particular are particularly important to me because they're my bosses. Delighted that Julie Yang and Brenda Wolf are on the call today. They are members of our Board of Education, and it's a thankless job. It's tough. I'm thrilled that we are moving in a good direction together, and that we share a lot of the goals of where we think the school system needs to go. So thank you, Julie. Thank you, Brenda, for being on the call today, and being here to lend your support. In terms of an overview and in terms of a vision and a mission, we have a lot of things that are going on right now. First and probably foremost, that is top of mind, is that the school system is going through a strategic planning process that will conclude this spring and launch a brand new strategic plan effective July 1. The good news with that is that this will likely not have a ton of surprises in it because of some of the challenges are very apparent in our school system, and give us ample opportunity to focus on things. But it's a critical component in the budgeting process to align your values, your goals, and your resources in the same direction. So I'm actually thrilled that I get to be a part of this process, and that I get to work with the team that's doing this development. Some of the things that have surfaced very early on in that process, and that have been targets for us and part of the board's direction to me as the new superintendent coming in this summer, have to do with a focus on our literacy and mathematics performance, and making sure that our kids are making progress towards excellence, and for MCPS to regain its position and reputation as being an excellent place for children to learn, and a great place for educators to work, and a great place for families to raise their family. Um, Another area of focus that is also directly connected is making sure that we are supporting some of our special populations who need a lot of additional scaffolding and support. These are English language learners, as well as our students with disabilities, and some of our reporting categories are Hispanic and Black students as well. These are critical performance areas that we are focused on the academic space. And then there are also issues that we're focused on the operational space. Top of mind for every parent when they kiss their child goodbye in the morning is that they want to make sure that their child comes home at the end of the day in one piece. And so safety and security, as well as just the environmental safety that our schools provide, is critically important. If I were to distill this down to a couple of things, in the school system, we have tremendous influence over learning environments and also learning experiences, if I'm going to oversimplify things. And so we really need to have high quality, safe, welcoming, and inclusive learning environments, coupled with really memorable and really exciting and engaging learning experiences that inspire our kids. Connected to all of this is the goal that we prepare our young people to become great adults, that they contribute in a positive way to their community. And we really need robust career preparation and post-secondary preparation as a hallmark of what we do. There are still some lingering challenges that come from the pandemic, and even prior to the pandemic, that just surfaced during the pandemic as major priorities in the space of wellness and mental health, that are also issues that we're contending with on a pretty regular basis. I know that this is not a fair characterization, but it seems like a lot of our kids came back from the pandemic feral, and it requires a different level of care and a different level of attentiveness. And these are all things that are top of mind today. Uh, where I am pointed in terms of my work on a day-to-day basis right now is we are in the throes of developing the budget and and taking these goals in this direction from our Board of Education and translating that into resource allocation. And the current path that we're on right now is not sustainable. And what I hope to bring to MCPS is a hard look at where we can get the most academic and operational return on investment that we possibly can, and to prepare our kids for success and really focus on the fundamentals that are going to help move the needle. So that's a long summary, and hopefully my answers will be much shorter to the other questions. But I think it does give a comprehensive view, kind of where we are today, the things that I'm focused on, and the direction that I've been going in it with the Board of Ed.
Yeah, no, that's great and very comprehensive. So I appreciate you laying that out up front. And so for our attendees, if you do have any questions for our superintendent, please raise your virtual hand and we'll alternate between the pre-submitted questions that we have from registrants and the live questions from the audience members. So kicking it off, top of mind, one of the questions we wanted to ask is around the electric school bus contract. And so there's been a lot of things in the news, and there were recent county council meetings with our leaders in MCPS around the school bus contract and renegotiation. So the question is, please provide an update to the community on where negotiations stand regarding the electric school bus contract. Please update us as to the $1.5 million invoice sent to the vendor for reimbursement. Has MCPS received these funds? And if not, what is the timing for receipt?
Sure. Well, first things first, and I hope you can appreciate this. I'd love to give you an update on negotiations, but I have a fiduciary responsibility to the school district to not compromise our negotiations by disclosing what's going on with them. That being said, nothing is more frustrating than this whole fiasco, and that's a really great word to describe this particular situation. I think that when we have great ideas and we marry them with a great operational plan, and there is effective internal controls and better monitoring, great things happen. And there's a couple of shortcomings that were pointed out by our Inspector General. I'm of the mind that I am grateful for the uncovering of this, and for seeing some irregularities, and helping us craft a plan on how we might correct those irregularities. So I'm actually quite grateful to have a partner in our Inspector General. I don't think that audits are things that we should fear. I think that they are things that we need to embrace because they give us opportunities to improve. Um, it is really hard for me to get bent out of shape about things that happened when I wasn't here. But setting an expectation where we can put forward a better process, a better approach, and better internal controls is really what I'm about. Um, we are in a discussion with, this is not a secret, and this is absolutely something we can disclose, in negotiations with our current vendor for electronic buses. It's important for the community to know that a complete severing of relations with our vendor is not necessarily the best alternative, because we lease a lot of equipment that is used for charging in addition to some of the buses themselves. So we are trying to work through some of our challenges. We have submitted an invoice for unpaid components to the previous contract or our current contract. We have not received remuneration. That is a part of our negotiation at present. So I would love to put something out in some sort of release or some sort of announcement that we've satisfactorily concluded that part of business. I can't do that at this time, and that's okay because we're working through it. But I love the support that I've gotten from county government. And I love the support and of the team that I have that has really embraced the reforms that we are trying to put in place so that we don't revisit the same issue. And I think that at the end of the day, that's really what we're focused on is not repeating mistakes of the past.
Yes, no, that's spot on. It's exactly that, right? We grow through what we go through, and that's definitely a reasonable expectation of taxpayers for you and your team. So thank you for that. I see one audience member, Lisa Price, has raised her hand for a question. Lisa, you want to come off mute and ask Dr. Taylor your question?
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Taylor. It's nice to virtually meet you.
Nice to
Um,
meet you too.
a couple of things. So my son is in middle school, in special ed, and that has been an area of MCPS that has had a lot of cuts, staffing cuts, larger classrooms, not able to get, I'll just call it equipment or things that, you know, classrooms need. Um, And so do you foresee making additional cuts? Because right now it's just not, it's just not making it for special ed. There's just a lot of problems. The teachers are not as good as they used to be. The para educators, they can't even find para educators. So that's one part of my question. And the second part of the question is the middle school that my son attends is one of the schools that money was is going to be taken away from due to that $39.4 million keying error. So you had to recoup money from other schools um, to make that loss from not getting that grant to make that loss not as large. So how were those schools like his school was supposed to get like over $1 million for like a renovation. Are they ever gonna see that money again?
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa, and I appreciate the question. And hopefully, my answer to the first part will pleasantly surprise you. Um, I have had a number of community engagements, town hall t style
That
conversations,
I was
virtual
unable,
meetings.
yes, I was unable to actually attend those.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're here tonight. And every single one of those events, special education has been a featured part of the conversation. And the messages have been remarkably consistent. And it has become abundantly clear to me and also to our Board of Education that special education needs a complete overhaul and a reimagination of how we deliver services. Not to get too technical, but you will see us chipping into our fund balance from fiscal 24 with a supplemental appropriation request to use our existing fund balance to finance special education positions and support for this current school year because I see what you see, which is how under-resourced special education really is. And that is really in most successful school districts, they start by resourcing the areas that need to be focused on the most and then expand out to have the greatest impact. And that's not been our strategy in the past. And so if we want to talk about an academic return on investment strategy, that would be something that I'm going to hopefully shift us towards to see what kind of scaffolding we need to put in place for our students that have the biggest challenges with learning in a school setting. And it's huge. It's huge. This is a massive undertaking. At the federal level, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is grossly under-resourced. And there are high expectations. The high expectations are not necessarily bad, but they are high. And we need to do a lot better than what we've been doing right now in terms of service delivery. And this is going to require some changes because we have been relying on some antiquated strategies about how we've grouped kids. We've created some boutique-esque style programs that aren't particularly cost effective or academically efficient or supporting our kids in the right way. But I'm going to add even one more layer to this that's been really frustrating. The experience that a lot of our parents have had when they have tried to resolve issues has just been upsetting. Um, Navigating
It's
the
terrible. It's truly terrible.
bureaucracy, yeah, and that's a consistent theme, Lisa, and you need to know that I hear and see that because that consistent theme needs to come to an end. And I don't have a great word for this or a phrase for this in the education space, but I hope you know what I mean when I say customer service. The customer service piece has really been lacking in terms of our ability as a school system to support families going through a pretty complex uh, process in order to find the right supports for a child in the classroom. That doesn't mean that we don't have pockets of success or that there aren't opportunities that really are bright, shining moments, but there is a level of consistency that some of our parents have had that they get exhausted by going through that process, and it really just kind of needs to be reimagined from the ground up. As to your second question about school construction and whatnot, well, I feel very good about this one. More so than special education, that's for sure, because the special education journey that we're going to need to do as a county is going to be long and very arduous. So this one is a lot easier. We're able to not interrupt the progress of any project that is in the queue at this time in terms of their timeline for completion. If the school that I'm thinking about is the same one that you're thinking about, those were actually planning dollars that were allocated because $1.5 million doesn't go very far in the school construction space, believe it or not.
True,
Um,
true.
so
They hadn't
the
received it yet. It was just
yeah,
plan. It was
and
planning.
so the planning dollars being interrupted in an off year of the CIP is actually not going to delay any project, and that I think is critically important. That's not to say that in the next CIP process that that project isn't up for grabs or in jeopardy or what have you. It may be when it's reevaluated, although unlikely. It still hasn't interrupted the timeline. That is a nut, and I'm glad you brought this up too. This was another very frustrating irregularity to catch and to see. Um, and I got to tell you, it's just really disappointing that we were kind of put into this position to have to navigate it because the schools that are under construction and where construction is well underway, they deserve to have completed projects and they deserve to have completed projects on a timeline. We need to be a little bit better at forecasting and a little bit better at contract management, and that was pointed out. I I I would be really disappointed, and you should be disappointed if something like that were to happen again under my administration, because our expectations are just very different. I'm not a fan of partial projects. I'm not a fan of phased projects. Either you have the money to buy something or you don't. And living within those finite means, I think, means making some tough choices, but those tough choices also keep you solvent and keep you black. And being in the black is far preferable to being in the red because when you're in the red, you actually wear orange. And I'm not akin to that. So, and I don't think the Board of Ed is either. So to that end, please expect greater solvency from us in the future. And please expect a little bit tighter precision in our contract administration in cooperation with the state.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor, and thank you so much, Lisa,
Thank
for
you.
the question. So our next question is touching on your prior point on OIG. So currently, as you mentioned, the OIG office is housed under the county council. However, one recommendation is that MCPS has its own Office of Inspector General. Would you support an MCPS OIG that allows you to have stronger governance oversight to ensure virtually all contracts will be subject to your approval and control?
Oh, wow. That's a very complex question. I don't know that I would. I think that having an independent inspector general who reports to the funding body is not necessarily a bad idea. And I think that it's important for elected citizens that sit on our Board of Education to have final say on contracts that are recommended. I think that some of the governance structures are pretty good the way that they are. They do require maintenance, and they do require good actors in that space, and people with integrity to conduct themselves with integrity and with precision. That doesn't mean that mistakes won't occur. That's inevitable in any human organization, especially large human organizations. But how we respond to those mistakes and what things we do proactively to position ourselves is probably a better strategy than messing with any kind of governance structure. I think that there are governance structures that preserve a lot of positive things and also help us catch some things too. So I don't think that MCPS needs a separate inspector general. I think that that having some cross-governmental agency components are not necessarily a bad thing.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think, Joan, you raised your hand regarding our current question. Please. You're on mute, Joan. Joan, you're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go.
All right. So, Dr. Taylor, first, we must say that we do want you to succeed. So when we ask these questions, they are not meant to be gotchas. We're seriously interested in making your job and the school system be successful. So I was a bit disappointed in your response to the Inspector General. The reason being I'm a retired federal employee, and we each had our Inspector Generals in each of the government agencies. And so the only oversight we had was obviously from Congress, but that was at a very, very high level. Having our own Inspector General in each agency made the Inspector General much more aware of both the culture and what was going on in that agency. While I'm pretty sure the current Inspector General is very adept at what she does, the question is she or her office allowed to interfere at what level with the school system, which is really a state subject and is really beholden to the state more than to the county. The county basically writes a check. So are there any laws that basically say that if the county inspector general comes up with recommendations, the school system can, in the goodness of heart, agree? Can they disagree? Because since it's really a state subject, how far can a county inspector general go in enforcing the recommendations? And wouldn't it help to have an internal inspector general? It would possibly avoid the Beetleman fiasco, the electric bus fiasco, etc., and also others that may be in the background that you're unaware of because you don't know everything that's happening in the school system, and that the school board, and thank you for the two members who are on the call right now, they have a full plate, and wouldn't it help them if you had your own inspector general separate and apart from the rest of the bureaucracy who could basically dig in, not only auditing, but finding out whether, in fact, the programs are producing the results for which they are funded. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say that the county inspector general does have staff that are solely dedicated to the investigation of MCPS, because we're the largest entity in the county. I wouldn't say that we're beholden to the state more than the locality. I would say, if anything, we're arm's length a little bit closer to the locality than we are to the state, even though the state has some rigidity to its rules. Um, there definitely is an inequitable funding split in terms of how we're financed. The county has the lion's share of financial responsibility to the school system, and they have some oversight in that space. I think that there's some health to that. I think a broader question, to your point, is would it be helpful to have more of an auditing arm within? And yes, I do. I don't think it needs to be an IG per se, because I think we do get that oversight pretty successfully. But would it be beneficial to have more of an auditing presence? Absolutely. I don't discount that at all. Actually, I think that's a very positive and really refreshing way of looking at the work.
Well, the reason I raised that, Superintendent Taylor, was that every year the school system asks for funding over and above the maintenance of effort level. And generally it is linked to closing the achievement gap, the opportunity gap, whatever you want to call it. How do we know, and would a local inspector general be able to look at whether the funding is really producing results? You're talking about an auditor. Are you thinking more of an accounting kind of auditor, or someone who looks at programs?
Well, I think you can have both, because there's lots of different types of auditing that can be done for sure. And a phrase that I would love to add to the lexicon of Montgomery County is academic return on investment. And that is, I think, a phrase that you'll hear me use a lot, because we are being sensitive to the dollars that are spent. I would also caution in broadly defining the school system's budget based on MOE, because maintenance of effort is benchmarked from year to year, and your needs also shift from year to year, and MOE is not really sensitive to that. So, and I'll give you an example of that. In the last 10 years, we've had dramatic increases to some of our special populations, and MOE doesn't account for that. It simply doesn't. So if you were to fund at MOE without being sensitive to changes in student needs, you might be missing a piece of the picture. So I think it's taking in lots of different inputs and trying to create a wider angle lens view of the school system's finance, not just one aspect. But it's a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's a great point, Dr. Taylor. I know when you met, I think it was earlier or last week with the county council, there were some recommendations. I don't know if you want to share on maybe some other metrics that should be included when determining maintenance of effort, like we were saying, like the amount of farm students or things like that, that you would recommend as part of either your state legislation, or maybe speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's and I think that somewhere later in our conversation we're going to talk about state priorities. I think that there's some room for us to look at how our state funding formula works. It does take into account special populations and farms, but it's like, to what extent? The way that it works right now, Montgomery County is certainly disadvantaged in the state funding formula. Not to say that it needs to be in perfect balance. We certainly get taking a look at our money through an equity lens as being an important feature, but but the way that it is right now, it's pretty disproportionate. I worry greatly when the state has a great idea that they want to share, and they create a law or an expectation, and they say that they are going to put money towards it. Well, they put it towards us at an inequitable split, and that inequitable split is based on the state's funding formula, not financing their idea. So when Annapolis comes up with an idea that it's still the local share has to be accounted for somehow, and local decision makers didn't have a role in that, and that's very frustrating sometimes.
Right. No, thank you for that. And so Sheldon, I see you've raised your hands. Please, your virtual hand, please unmute and ask Dr. Taylor your question.
Hello, my name is Sheldon Fishman, and first of all, I'm a very grateful customer. Our four children got an excellent education, were well prepared, and they went to school in down county schools that were at that time called high educational load schools. And now I have grandchildren in Montgomery County Public Schools, and I'd like to offer a suggestion of how you can save a lot of money and get higher quality from your construction company, your construction department. And it's really simple. A simple request is to ban artificial turf fields because they cost $700,000 more than a state-of-the-art grass field that has the same playability. So in honor of this setting, the taxpayers, I'll talk only about the financial and not the environmental and health and other aspects of that decision. But the current policy of your construction company, your construction department, is to every new high school gets they pave over the real grass field that's there now, which is probably crappy order, and replace it with a plastic field, which costs at least $700,000 more than a state-of-the-art grass field that has the same playability. And it also creates unfunded mandates to replace this synthetic turf field after 6 to 8 years, when it's the end of its useful life and it has to be removed and replaced. So you could save some money and get better quality by just simply banning the purchase of new artificial turf fields.
Thank you.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sheldon. And so sticking to maintenance of effort, I guess one follow-up we have with that is, like you mentioned, Dr. Taylor, it is very likely that we will request a budget that is over the maintenance of effort. Can you tell us where the increase will be added in the base budget? What strategies that's already in the base will this add on to, or is it a new strategy? And one recommendation that I believe Gordy had mentioned to you is to look into restoring Table 1A, which showed how increased spending was going to be spent on strategies.
Yeah, certainly. So I hope that you'll see a couple of things very different in this year's budgeting process that I hope will be useful to really everyone on the call. The first one, and this will take us a few years to get really proficient at, is I've asked our centralized departments to start with a zero base. So instead of a cost plus or base plus budget this year, we are actually going to be starting from zero in the centralized departments. This is a big shift for us. It's very time consuming. It will take a lot of practice to do well. But we're making progress. And so I hope that there is some realized savings that folks can really point to and be proud of, and that can be part of our strategy for the next several years as we move forward. And I hope that that's a part of our transparency, so that our citizens can really see kind of the nuts and bolts behind it. The second thing that I hope is really helpful is I'll be providing a summary sheet that is a digital summary sheet with links to exhibits where people can really drill down into specific line items. I hope that this is a huge advantage for folks because I hope to demystify some of the line items in our budget. And that's really important to me. Those numbers come from somewhere. And it's important that folks have some tangible viewpoint as to where their money is being spent and how their investment is being attributed. Now, in general, and this is just kind of a good rule of thumb to know, there's two really significant cost drivers in MCPS. The first is how many people we employ, and the second one is how much we pay them. That accounts for 90% of our operating budget. So when we look at costs and when we look at increases to the budget, it is almost exclusively tied to personnel. So when you see a change, you're going to see a change in one of those two cost drivers, the number of people we have and how much we pay them. And that will be a significant feature that folks will be able to tangibly see as part of our budget process and part of the information that we share publicly. You'll have a spreadsheet that you can take off of the board documents website, and you can manipulate it and sort it however you like. And hopefully that'll be a very different experience than 1,000 pages of a PDF.
No, that's great. And I definitely look forward to seeing that dashboard over my holiday, Christmas to New Year's reading. I look forward to the 500 and so pages.
And you and me both.
And so there's one quick follow-up, and then we'll get to Courtney's question. Would you consider, maybe not for this year because you guys are almost done, but would you consider involving the Taxpayers League within the budget formulation process?
Yeah, I think stakeholder involvement is critical. And I will say the only rub about coming in as a superintendent in the summertime, which is required by Comar as a full-time superintendent, is that I feel like I'm robbed of a few months of opportunity to get a better understanding of elements of the district that would help inform the budgeting process. And hearing your voice, hearing the voices of our community, it does make a difference. It does inform recommendations. And I don't know everything. And there are a ton of great ideas out there and great recommendations that are worth considering. The calculus that I'm running in my head constantly is this good for kids and families? And will it generate a return relative to the investment that we're trying to make? And is this better than other investments that we are currently making right now in terms of prioritization? So that's kind of the constant narrative that I've got running in the back of my mind. And so I hear a lot of good ideas all the time, and some things I say that sounds like a great move and something we need to do. But other times I'm like, that's a nice to have. That's not a must have. Or that's a should have, not a nice to have. And really trying to categorize and prioritize the things that we invest in as a school system.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And so I'll turn to our audience member, Courtney, if you want to unmute and ask Dr. Taylor your question.
Hi, Dr. Taylor.
Hey, guys.
It's good to see you virtually where I don't have to wear a mask for once.
Right?
Smile at you. Hi.
Good to see you.
Good. I would like to echo what Joan said earlier about, these comments and these things that we're saying. It's all with the goal of making things better for MCPS. And I know you've said to me many times, never apologize for advocating, but I also just want to emphasize that, I'm probably one of your biggest cheerleaders. We've been very
Thanks.
impressed with what you've done so far. And we're excited to see the work you're doing. That said, I do take note of the emphasis that you put on supporting special populations and wanting a return on investment. And especially sort of hit my heart when you talked about how what you do have tremendous effect over is the environment and experience that students have. Because as a parent that has 2 kids in the BLP program, one that's been in HHT her entire school career, and one that was thriving at MBA, obviously that just really hit me on the heart. So given these things that we know, given that we know through MCAT performance that MBA students perform, and they perform well, and virtual learning can work, not the pandemic learning, but the way it was with MBA. We know that it can work and work well, that these students do very much provide a return on that investment in terms of performance, in terms of graduating students who otherwise would never graduate, like caregiving students. I think there was like a dozen, and I think we graduated like 8 of them, and the others weren't seniors yet.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like any high school MBA teacher, that's all you'll hear about from them. They were so proud of that. Anyway, given that, and given that, there were 1,100 students that applied for MBA this year, 295 of them have left. I'm sure some of them would have left anyway, but many of them left because there was no MBA to go to. We know that personally because, as leaders of the advocacy group for them, we've talked to them and polled them, and they've gone to private virtual schools. They've gone to homeschooling, and these are like working parents who are trying to homeschool. These are not people who want to homeschool or unschool. They feel like they have to because there's nowhere for them to go. And given that the BLP, though, thank you for doing that, it's just not meeting the needs of them. It's not, it's not it's not the full program like MBA was. And it's not bringing people back, and it's not bringing their revenue back with them. And given that all 3 of the incoming BOE members who were just elected have expressed support for MBA in the budget, one of them calling it a priority. And last point, given that the virtual school can be a source of where you're not pitting. In the past, it's felt like the budget kind of pits opportunity against access. And it's like with MBA, you can have both. And it can also be a source of revenue. Given all of those things, and that we're working with a zero-based budget, it feels like MBA should be a foundational component of that as a way of ensuring that every student in Montgomery County can actually have full access to a full education. Will it be a foundational part of the budget? And if not, why not?
Thanks
Yeah,
so much.
sure. And so I want to take a couple of steps back and talk about the budgeting process in general. And I think that this kind of touches on a lot of your points, Courtney, is, what are your goals and what are you really trying to accomplish? And how do you draw a through line between the things that you value, the goals that you have, and the resources that you have available? And I see virtual learning, there's a utility for that. And there's a component for virtual learning that absolutely connects that through line between our values, what goals we want to accomplish, and some of our resources that we have available. And I'll give you a good example, because I think that there's an example that has not been utilized in the virtual learning space that's totally underutilized and that we really could recapture. We've got 7 students who are going to take this really highly specialized class over here, and 7 students over here who want to take this highly specialized class, and 7 students at another school that want to take this highly specialized class. Well, as it stands right now, what we would do is we would cancel the class at all 3 sites because they don't meet the enrollment threshold. However, a really smart and efficient system would utilize some of the distance and virtual learning capabilities that we did have to, by force, learn about during the pandemic, and capitalize on that in a really meaningful way, so that kids could have that really rich, highly specialized experience and do that in multiple places, and that could be a huge success. So it really is an opportunity for us to be innovative and for us to explore different learning environments that are going to meet the needs of our kids. So I see that as a part of our future. And the last little piece that I'll say to this is, what an unfair position to be in as a school system, on a very difficult and tough timeline in order to prioritize a lot of decisions. I don't envy the Board of Education when things fall short and tough decisions have to be made. That it really is unfair, and when the game plan isn't as fleshed out as it probably needs to be going into the later spring months, and that makes me reflect on how important it is for us to prioritize. So it's really important for the superintendent and staff to have some really clear-cut priorities and really clear-cut statements over this is a must-have, this is a should-have, this is a nice-to-have, and be clear about where things fit into specific categories so that if difficult decisions need to be made, that good guidance can be provided to the board. And I think that the board relies on good guidance when they're performing their oversight duties, and good recommendations that can be verified easily. And that's tough when you're on a tight timeline. So I hope that this budget season, although I predict it to be difficult, will be at the very least filled in by structure, filled in by process, and filled in by priority, and give at least our community a glimpse of the things that we value most. Because the things that we value is a long list, but the things that we value most should be the things that we invest in our budget.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney, for that question. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. We were coming down to the end here, 10 more minutes, so we'll probably move a little bit quicker. And I see the two hands, we will get to you. However, we wanted our next question to be regarding the state legislation priorities. So can you please talk to us about MCPS's state legislation priorities? We know we currently have Blueprint for Maryland's Future, unfunded mandates and challenges related to sustainable funding. Can you talk about what's a priority for you in this upcoming General Assembly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be very quick. There are a handful of priorities. The first and probably most significant one is to not have new unfunded mandates. This is a budget killer for us. And I will say when the General Assembly gavels out and something gets signed into law and there's a price tag at the end of it, whether intended or unintended, this now creates a shift in priorities and something that concerns us greatly. Maryland is one of actually it is the only state that requires that the graduate equivalent exam, the GED, be administered in English only. This is problematic for a lot of our students, but out of the 50 states in the United States, that 49 of them have figured out that it's okay to do something in a different language, and somehow Maryland hasn't. That feels like something that could be corrected very easily. As part of the blueprint for Maryland's future, there's an expectation that our advanced placement and international baccalaureate test fees are the burden of the local school district's responsibility. And though we agree that many students would benefit from that benefit, we also acknowledge that not every student needs to benefit from that benefit. And we feel like there would be a cost savings if we didn't have that expectation. We like a lot of the ideas in the blueprint. We do think that great ideas need to be accompanied by dollars that are attached to them and not partial dollars. If it is the state's idea to do something, then the state should bear the lion's share of the responsibility to finance it. But that's not how it is right now. So we have a certain disposition about that.
Perfect. That's very helpful. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to turn it over to Janice. Can unmute and ask Dr. Taylor your question. Keeping in mind, we have about a little over 5 minutes left.
Yep. Hi, thanks. In the interest of transparency, we've heard that word a lot. Will you restore the MCPS Funding Accountability and Transparency Database? It was in existence since 2010, 14 years of being able to see whenever the school system spent over $25,000 on a particular vendor, The database is still there, although it's been scrubbed from the MCPS website. It is still, I guess, out there on the web, but it ended this summer when you arrived. Will you restore that?
Sounds like something right up my alley. I can't wait to learn more about it, but it sounds like something I'd do.
Thank you.
Perfect. I love it. Quick. Okay, so I'm going to go back to one of our pre-submitted questions, and then I see your hand, Andrea. So turn to special education. We touched on it a little bit, but I know recently this year, one of the things that were implemented was the MCPS pilot for J1 visa special education teachers. Can you talk about the rationale for this pilot? How are things going over the last few months, whether you have data or just anecdotally? And when is the first check-in with MCPS Board of Education members on stated goals and progress report?
Sure. And Esther, if we have to go over for a few minutes, I'm okay with that. It's really your meeting to run, and I'm here to serve you.
Thank you so much.
I've had experience with J1 visa teachers in other districts before. This is something new for MCPS. Anytime you try something new, there's going to be some clunky components. I would say on the whole, this has been a good idea and definitely something that we need to look at and potentially invest in the future. It's a very low cost solution to getting certified teachers in a specific area or a high needs area. In this case, it's special education. There's definitely some support components to help with the transition, but for an international teacher that probably need to be considered with a little bit more gravity. There's lessons learned, I think, every year that we do something new, but I think on the whole, there's some real positives. One of the things that I would love to take back, and this was something initiated long before I got to MCPS, was that centrally the teachers were assigned versus the principals having some sort of say in the assignment. And I think that would have helped and made a significant difference. So I think that there's some areas for us to improve. In terms of touch points, we're constantly making touch points with them and learning from their experience. They're fantastic and quite lovely, and want the best for their students and want to be able to serve this community. They feel like this has been quite the experience coming to Montgomery County, and they've learned a lot, and our kids and our communities have learned a lot from them as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to turn it to the last audience question. Andrea, you want to unmute and ask a question to Dr. Taylor, please?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, all. Good evening, Dr. Taylor.
Good evening.
I want to first thank you for acknowledging the special education piece. I have burdened your ears many times over with the woes of the special education families in MCPS, and I would like to tell you that I speak for my family as well as many of our cohorts when I say we are putting a lot of trust in you to come through for us with your initiatives for special education, as you have put them forth in many meetings, including this one. I would also like to shift gears a little bit because I come from a double position where I have to say we're special education, and my children have all been in the virtual academy here in MCPS. I identify with Courtney and Sterling. We're all in the same plight here. I do believe when you say that the core values of MCPS, and I think virtual learning aligns with those values and goals in that access for all is one of the things that I saw the MVA be able to do for the community, not just those children who have medical needs to be there, but children who also learn differently and learn better in a virtual setting. And I wish that more people would make the distinction between what pandemic virtual learning was versus what the virtual academy was. The structure that was there, the bell schedule, the drama club, the what is that? debate teams. These are things that I got to watch my children experience, going to the instrumental music. I think it takes a special kind of person to teach instrumental music virtually and have those children do compositions the way that they did it, and to watch them go from day one all the way through the final performances and be in complete and utter awe and wows. Like, how did they do that? But they did it. And when I can attest for what you were speaking on, Dr. Taylor, with the push-ins for those students who might be one student here at this school, one student at the other school, because my daughter was in that class where there was one boy, just the only boy in his entire school, who needed that accelerated math class. So he was the only student there. And then there was another one student from another school, and that was throughout the life. But that started also for elementary students where they were doing those push-ins. So I do believe that there's value in that. And in addition, for those children who do have those medical components that cannot attend, this BLP that's been proposed, and I want to thank you for at least making the efforts to be able to put something together. However, it falls short. It falls short greatly, greatly so. I don't want to seem like an ingrate, because I am not. We are appreciative of it, but we do believe that the virtual academy, akin to it, needs to be for your next budget. And I heard you when you answered Courtney, but I would like to hear, how does that meet the access by not having equity to access by not having a virtual academy in your budget? And I would think that having one would bridge that gap, in addition to making it for all students in MCPS. Thank you.
Yeah, so certainly, and I don't want to be repetitive. I think that there's lots of different ways that we can solve a lot of the challenges that we have. And I think that having some variety and some different tools in our toolkit only enhances the student experience and only enhances what we're able to do programmatically. One of the other big things that we struggle with as a county is just some specialized programs in different parts of the county without a lot of great access to it. I recently had a meeting at Whitman High School where they had this wonderful social justice program and no transportation mechanism for kids that were coming as far away as Damascus down to Walt Whitman High School to access this program. Yet some programs have that access point, other programs don't have that access point, and it doesn't align with our values. So I think that there's an opportunity in the virtual learning space for us to innovate, and there's also an opportunity for us to expand equity of access. And I think that there's just opportunity abound, despite the fact that we have some fiscal challenges that we need to navigate through, that they may even help us out with a few of those. So thank you, Andrea. It's good to hear your voice again, and thank you for chiming in. And Esther, I know you've got a few more questions that you want to ask, so I'm gonna leave it to you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think we are at the end of our questions for now. We could definitely work offline and follow up, but I appreciate you giving us this hour this evening to meet with the community and answer a lot of our questions. I do want to give you the last word. How can we support you as the Taxpayers League, as the community, as you embark on the FY 2026 budget or on your tenure here with MCPS? How can we support your work?
Well, I have no doubt that you'll hold me accountable. And I see that as a good thing. And I think that that's great. I would say, please stay in dialogue with me, and keep the conversation going. I regret that I am certain that I will make a mistake of the head, but please rest assured that it will not be a mistake of the heart. And if something that I present is unclear, please call me out on it, with the intention that we can create clarity where there isn't anything that is clear. I very much want for you to feel as though you can find your way through our budget process, our budget documents. I think that would be a huge bonus for our community, for you to see our thinking and see where we're navigating some of the decision points that we make in the budget. Because I want to win your support. And I think that our kids would be validated by having a broader support from our community, because there are real needs. And right now, it's hard to see it because there's a big dollar sign attached to the school system's budget. But there are people behind those dollar signs, and carved up 160,000 ways, or carved up 33,000 ways in terms of our employee base. It does stretch. And I want those numbers to make sense. I want you to see the realism behind those numbers, and to feel validated in your questions, but also to have answers that you can rely on with some fidelity. So from my perspective, the work of the school system is very simple. We're here to create great adults that contribute positively in their community. The things that go into making that happen have an awful lot to do with some very fundamental tasks in terms of caring for our children's well-being, as well as their academic nurturing. We can do these things. It does require some support. Education will never be cheaper than it is today. But we can use those dollars as efficiently as we can, and commit to getting the most out of every dollar that we spend. And that's something that I'm passionate about. So I do want to thank you for creating this occasion and finding a time to talk to me. I hope that this is a regular occurrence. And I just know how much I've looked forward to this conversation, and how much I'll look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. And thank you everyone for joining this evening for the Montgomery County Taxpayers League, hosting our superintendent. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your night. Bye.